Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my college football top 25. I just got back from Camp Tonazona from ASU, so I wanted to wait until I went to that to see how ASU actually was. And I'm pretty satisfied with where I put my Sun Devils. If I piss your team off, or if I piss you off because I didn't place your team in a spot you like, or I didn't place it at all, let me hear it in the comments because I need it for the algorithm, please. Other than that, let's just get straight into this thing. So at number 1, I've got Penn State. I didn't even mean to do that. I didn't even know these things were doing that, but that's pretty cool. Number 1, I got Penn State. To me, this team just has so much material coming back from last year. You got to think they threw an interception right at the end of that Notre Dame game, which set them up for an easy field goal. That game was down to the wire, just barely fell short of a national championship appearance where, I mean, let's be honest, they would have probably put up a really good competition. They did earlier in the year against Ohio State. I remember I was so fed up with how that game went because of how poorly Penn State played. Just by making mistakes, getting held on 4th and goal, just making dumb stuff like that happen, and they still barely lost a close game, if I'm remembering correctly. It has been a year. But this team, you're getting Drew Aller back and you're getting 2 running backs. It just kind of looks to me like the Detroit Lions, as well as they had a really good defense. They do lose their star tight end, but I mean, it's not necessary to have a superstar tight end to be a functioning offense. I think Penn State is going to I think they're going to make a big punch this year. I've got them going 11-1 in my Big Ten prediction video. If you haven't seen that, I also did all the other conferences. But yeah, I think Penn State is the team to beat in the Big Ten. It's going to be Ohio State at the start of things, but I'm just a little questionable of teams like that. Number 2, Texas. I originally was going to put this team lower, but there's one thing that's for certain. It's that, 1, their schedule's easy, and 2, they have a good-ass defense. They're going to have a really good defense, and maybe Arch Manning is going to be that quarterback. That's just my thing here is when I'm ranking these teams, I base it off of questions, and the worst question you can have as a football team is our quarterback going to be good? Arch played a couple games last year and took a couple snaps. He really just ran the ball, and he played against, Colorado State a full game. Realistically speaking, he wasn't really playing too much ball to be putting him in the Heisman conversation. Quinn Ewers was great last year. A lot of people would beg to differ, but man, he made a great audible against ASU. He played well against Ohio State. I'm not going to blame him for fumbling that ball when you should just be running it forward on the 1-yard line rather than doing some stupid-ass pitch play that pushes you all the way back there. That was the biggest coaching collapse, play call collapse I've ever seen. I'm not going to blame Quinn for that. But maybe Arch has had a lot to learn from. He does have a great coaching staff, and he played behind Quinn, who had been in the league for a long time. And Quinn is apparently having really good practices for the Dolphins right now. And he didn't play too bad against the Bears today. I mean, nothing crazy, but for his first time on an NFL field, it was all right. But yeah, I think you can honestly just expect Texas to remain near the top for a lot of the season. It's just going to be when it comes down to college football playoff time, unless Arch really lives up to the hype throughout the regular season and into the college football playoff. Don't expect this team to win it. They're not a team I have winning it. Penn State is a team that I have potentially winning it all. Number 3, Clemson Tigers, a team returning the most amount of production from last year back. They've got some extreme wide receiver names, and they've got tied for first Heisman runner right now, Cade Klubnik. He proved last year that he actually is an elite quarterback. He's one of the best in the country. He's stayed loyal to the Clemson Tigers, and they've built something dangerous here. This team returned the most amount of production, which to me is so important. So important for these football teams. You can rely, like Texas Tech, for instance, you can rely on all these new guys and all these high-rated players and spend all this money all you like, but there is no telling whether you're actually going to be good or not. Texas A&M did that. They got ranked at number 6. They went 5-7. There is no telling. You cannot trust the star ratings and the transfers. You just, it's a new team. It's almost like they haven't built much chemistry yet. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I mean, that Texas A&M team, as the season went on, they got way better. But at the start of the year, they just looked horrible. They looked awful. Clemson has been together for a long time, this whole team. I think they returned 81% of their players. They are returning a lot from last year. I think Clemson is the team to win the ACC. There's some competition, and Clemson will not have it easy, but I think they're going to win the ACC. Maybe. It'll be close. But they will be in the college football playoff, and they are going to be a dangerous team and a team to potentially win it all for me. Ohio State. I kind of dropped them down because as I was driving home from Camp Tontozona, they were talking about Ohio State on the radio. And, I mean, they're literally talking about how Julian Sayin and these other guys are in a quarterback battle right now. And I know it's Ohio State. You can expect them to be good, but I just can't put my faith in these teams. Now, again, this is a situation like Texas where it's like, they will have a good defense. And, I mean, Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith, and I think it's Cardell Tate, 2 great wide receivers. You can expect Ohio State to be good and wallop the competition in the Big Ten for the most part. But Ohio State does not have it easy. They have to play Michigan, who is going to have a brutal defense and has kind of owned Ohio State these past couple years. Ohio State has to play Texas to start the year, which I actually have Ohio State winning just because the fact it's at Ohio State. There's a lot of games in which these teams will play in which, for instance, it doesn't necessarily correlate, but Clemson versus LSU, I think LSU is a great team, and they play each other, but it's just the timing of the game, there's certain aspects that doesn't necessarily make a team better than another, That's the thing here is Texas might be the better football team than Ohio State, but they're starting off the season opener at Ohio State. They're probably going to make some mistakes. It's also Arch Manning's first start. Same thing for the quarterback for Ohio State, but you might get more leeway in your home crowd where it's a lot nicer to you when you have the ball. So just to get that out of the way, I think Ohio State, they're returning a lot of players from last year, but they're also losing a lot of players. You lose Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, and you're your starting quarterback. Those are big positions to fill. A run game is not easy. Or a run game, I'm sorry, somebody's yelling my name right now. It's throwing me off. A run game does not exist without a pass game, and vice versa. A good running game in college football especially is so important to the fact that it is a key part of the offense. You need a good running game, and it opens up the passing game. That's where teams thrive. That to me is why ASU was really good last year, was because once Sam Leavitt found his footing, and once he started to get into a rhythm, our offense exploded. It absolutely exploded for the second half of the year. And largely that was due to the fact that you could just hand the ball off to Scatterbo. He would get a consistent 3+ yards and just wear out defenses that when you go play action, Leavitt can deliver a great pass or a great run, name it, and it would just dismantle defenses. That is important to me. Ohio State, has to fill in that running back spot. That's why I'm so high on Penn State, is because they've got I forget their names back there. I think one is Katron Allen. I don't remember and the other one is Singleton or something like that. I don't remember their names, but they were dogs last year. both of them are returning as well as the starting quarterback. That to me has so much more guarantee than a bunch of new people coming in. I'm sorry that was all over the place for my description. People just got to be yelling my name when I try to make a video. Sorry. But anyways, enough of Ohio State. Number 5, I have LSU. I actually was a little bit lower on this team originally, but like doing some deeper research, LSU is kind of like, they're kind of cooking right now. Their quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, however you say his last name, we're just going to call him Garrett for the sake of the video. He was a great quarterback last year. Brian Kelly is a great head coach. There is a lot of potential here. LSU has been bringing in good transfers and good recruiting. There's questions for me, like I don't know, their running game, was it really that good last year? Obviously not, like nothing too crazy. Are they bringing in a new running back is also a question. But I'm sure they will get it going, and you can guarantee they're going to have some wide receivers now. Rest in peace, that one wide receiver, but I think he would have been going to the NFL anyways. But yeah, that was really sad to hear when that happened. But you can expect them to be wide receiver university, and pretty much any time LSU has had a quarterback that has been right up at the top for the Heisman conversation, they've won it, and they've had some really good seasons. LSU's got a defense now. That was what Jaden Daniels was missing. LSU's got a defense now. I think first game of the year they go up against Clemson, but who's telling what happens the rest of the year? Now they've got some tough road games and just some tough games in general, but I have this team being pretty good at the end of the year. Even though I have them going 3 losses, there are 3 losses to doggone football teams, and I still think this team will be very highly ranked. And I honestly just have them losing to Clemson simply because LSU hasn't been able to win the first game of the year forever. Also, I mean, this year, I would have loved to pick LSU to break the trend, but they're playing Clemson, who is also just a super good football team. Number 6, the Arizona State Sun Devils. I could sit here and talk about them for however long I need to, but what really made me do this was, I've said it a couple times, I think. I went to Camp Tonazona, which is where they do their practice and the fans can go watch up in the woods. It's a beautiful football field. You can go watch the game. I actually posted a short of Leavitt throwing a touchdown. But our defense was absolutely dominant. Now, granted, Jordan Tyson, Malik McClain, and some other key players did not play. I think our starting tight end also did not play. I think they were doing this to kind of preserve them for the start of the season. Preserve your players. I don't think they wanted them getting hurt because a couple years ago, or actually, a couple years ago. Yes, in 2023 when they were horrible, we had Drew Pine, who was looking like he was going to be the starting quarterback, go run out of bounds, and he hurt his hamstring just in a scrimmage, and he didn't really end up getting to see the field that much, even though that was probably a very big blessing. After I finally did some research, I was like, thank God he was not our starting quarterback. He didn't even get a chance to play. It's like you don't want to run into an issue like that. And the thing was, Leavitt wasn't really getting hit because he's got a great offensive line and he's just mobile in the pocket, knows how to make plays. But the defense was just shutting them down, really held them to little production. And Leavitt was not happy because he threw a bad interception, something Leavitt doesn't do a lot. He threw a bad interception early in the game, and he just was not happy. I don't really think he signed many signatures or gave many people signatures because I, for one, couldn't find the dude. But yeah, he was just gone quick, and that to me is huge because ASU's defense was all right last year. They kind of let up a few points, but to crack down on it even more this year, as well as I would definitely say improve the offense. I know people say Scatterboo this, Scatterboo that. I met a lot of the running backs. They are good kids. they are just as big as Scatterboo. Like, just as big, just as tanky, and there's a lot of them. That's the thing. Right now, it sounds like the starter is going to be Kyson Brown, but sharing snaps with the Army transfer Kanye Udo. But there's others. There's more. The running back room is endless, and they are gigantic running backs. Scatterboo was about my height, and just obviously like way bigger. But these guys are just taller and bigger. And I think the running back room is going to be perfectly fine without Scatterboo back there. Yes, Scatterboo was absolutely dominant back there, and nobody will ever be like Scatterboo again. I think the running back room will be fine still. It'll still generate a huge problem for defenses. And honestly, I don't really see ASU losing many games. Like, to me, what will tell me if ASU is good or not is if we win a close one against Mississippi State. If we blow out Mississippi State and then we hit the road and beat Baylor, I think ASU's got this season on a wrap. I think it's over. Number 7, I got Notre Dame. Another team that I'm just like, yes, their defense is going to be extremely good, and it's Notre Dame. It's a high brand of football. They've got a great head coach, but we don't know who their starting quarterback is going to be. Is he going to be good? Now, the reason I was able to, I was originally going to drop this team a lot, but they have Jeremiah Love, who's probably the best running back in college football right now, and he's a dog, as well as they have a super good offensive line. So no matter the quarterback back there, he's probably going to have an easy time passing the ball because he's going to be so protected and he's going to have such a good run game. So I would expect Notre Dame to be good, but they also have a difficult schedule. I literally could see them finishing off number 7. Number 8, Georgia. Again, this offense for this team was very questionable. Georgia lost some games last year to where they just got shut down. I mean, Ole Miss shut them down. Who else did Georgia lose to? Alabama. I mean, they let Alabama win, who Alabama didn't even end up finishing off as like that highly regarded of a team. Georgia got torched in the first half. They started to put together a comeback against, as we would later figure out, a 4-loss Alabama team, and they still ended up losing after letting Ryan Williams just torch them. That Alabama team is improving, but they were not that good last year, as we figured out. Georgia they just sucked in that first half. Like, people regard that game as one of the best games we've seen in a long time, and I just disagree. I disagree. I feel like there have been such better games recently than than the Georgia-Alabama game. I really watched it back. It was just a lopsided first half with bad mistakes. Like the fumble Carson Beck made was just horrible. And then it was just Georgia making this comeback, and then they score. The ending was great. The ending was peak cinema because the dude caught a deep shot, and then Alabama threw a deep shot, and then Georgia was driving and he threw an interception. The ending was peak, but the game itself as a whole, not really. It was kind of lopsided. But Georgia, to actually talk about Georgia, they're gonna again, for probably the 5th time, they're going to have a good defense. It's Georgia. It's Kirby Smart. But their quarterback is Gunnar Stockton. He got shat on by Notre Dame. And I know it's Notre Dame, but if you don't think there's teams like Notre Dame in the SEC, you're wrong. What is stopping Georgia from getting shat on again? Especially since, they kind of had weak wide receivers. Like, the receiver core wasn't anything crazy. At least in 23 and stuff, they had McConkey and Bowers. They were great. Like, they had great players on the offense. Then once it took a step back, Carson Beck struggled a lot more. He still had a really good year, but he struggled and kind of single-handedly lost some games. And I just don't see how Georgia is making an improvement. I think even Carson Beck knew that. Was Carson Beck making mistakes at his team because he was bad? Or was he making them because the team around him just regressed and he's looking for a new opportunity where he can go back to Carson Beck's status? Because there is a while where Carson Beck was the best quarterback in college freaking football. He was great when he came to Georgia. But the last year, they just were a different breed, like a different offense. We haven't seen a offense this bad of Georgia in a while, at least in my opinion. At least in my opinion. There was games where Georgia scored a lot of points, but when it came down to it, they barely scored any points on Texas. Granted, Texas's defense was good, but still, like, nothing. Like, if the old offenses were up against that Texas defense, I'm sure Georgia would have won that game. They got absolutely shut down versus Ole Miss. That's the real game for me that I was just like, geez, like, what the crap, Georgia? So I don't know. I don't see how Georgia does much better than 3 losses. Maybe even, I have them going 4 losses personally. Alabama, number 9. I did some thinking about this. I was going to have this team be a lot lower, but I mean, really, I don't like it when the quarterback position is a question mark. It's unknown. But seriously, like, the upside for Alabama is kind of ridiculous right now. If this Ty Simpson kid is the guy they need and a really good player, and he gets it done, this Alabama team is going to flourish. If he's not, however, or if he gets hurt, obviously that happens for any team, so I'm not even going to go there. If he doesn't flourish, this team will struggle because you need to have a good quarterback. Anytime, if you have a mediocre quarterback at any level, you're not going to go better than 2 or 3 losses. And you won't make it anywhere in the college football playoff. But if this quarterback is good, which he could be, he's in Heisman conversations, Alabama could seriously, like, torch the league. They could torch the league and win the SEC. Right now, it is between, for me, Texas, LSU, and Alabama. Those are my teams for the SEC championship. If this Ty Simpson kid ends up playing really well and this team figures it out, they're going to fly. They're going to fly their way to the SEC championship. LSU as well, they just have more guarantee. You can expect them to be good. Same with Texas. They have a good defense. If Arch Manning gets it figured out, they'll probably sit at number 1. They'll probably sit at number 1 if Arch is actually that good. Oregon, they get the quarterback from UCLA, Dante Moore or something like that. I see Oregon kind of regressing this season. They had a really, really built team last year. I mean, Dylan Gabriel was great at Oregon. After all, he was in the Heisman conversation. He shouldn't have been. It should have been Cam Scatterboot, but he still made it, and even if he didn't, he would have been right outside of it. Oregon had a great year. They just blew up in the Rose Bowl. They were undefeated going into that game, but they lose a lot. They lose a lot. They get a lot, but they lose a lot. And again, just this Dante Moore kid wasn't anything good for UCLA. We expect him to fill the shoes of Dylan Gabriel and do what they did last year. I can see them hitting some road bumps. Yeah, some road bumps. I don't think Oregon is as good this year. Maybe I would say 2 losses. That's about a good spot for me. SMU, I mean, have we forgotten about the Ponies? They're ranked at number 16. I know it's the AFCA coaches poll, but they are ranked at number 16, and I just think that is diabolical. I understand, they kind of got smoked by Penn State, but I seriously think any team that would have gone into a Penn State environment like that is losing. That is by far the hardest stadium to play in. At that scenario, college football playoff appearance, the first one in their program's history, and it's at home. Oh, yeah, you better believe that stadium is going to be shaking. It is going to send earthquakes out every time a pass is caught. Did we really expect? And also, I mean, it was SMU's first year in Power frickin' 4. It was their first year in Power 4. They looked really like they weren't ready for the ACC championship game. They brought it all the way back in their special teams just blew it by letting a big kickoff return happen, and they got to avoid overtime. If they went to overtime, I think SMU probably takes that game in a big comeback. But the difference in the atmosphere and the And also, Penn State was just a better football team than Clemson. I mean, you just went up against – it was David versus Goliath, except, David was, strapped to the ground and couldn't move. It was just too much. I think going into year 2, same quarterback, great coach, returning a lot of players as well. That's a key point, is bringing back production. Mainly just got to figure out the running back spot. I think SMU they're going to be a good team again this year. But I think they have to play on the road at Clemson, and that's a big loss there. That's a tough one. If they can win there, who's stopping SMU? Michigan. This team, they get, I think it was the number 1 quarterback recruit. Can he fill in the shoes of, I will go back to J.J. McCarthy, because obviously the offense had some major struggles. But, I mean, Michigan returning a lot of their defense. You do lose legendary Cardinals cornerback Will Johnson, but they just build upon an already thriving defense, a super shutdown defense. Now you add some offensive pressure. I think that's all Michigan was missing last year. And even then, last year they figured it out defensively and managed to beat Ohio State and Alabama and turn their season around. Add a little bit of offensive pressure. I can see this team being a 2-loss team. It's just the offense might have some hiccups on the way. Gosh, now that I think about it, this is exactly what my prediction was. I wasn't even thinking about it like that, because that's what I mean. Is Michigan has the skill and they have the talent potentially to win every game on their schedule and beat all the big teams, but I just feel like they're going to have some hiccups and some bad performances, mainly on the offensive side of the ball, where they just drop some games, and that's exactly what I had them doing in my prediction videos. They dropped 2 bad ones on the road to Michigan State and Nebraska, but they beat Oklahoma and they beat Ohio State, and they win the big ones, Michigan, number 12. South Carolina, number 13. That's exactly where they are in the AFCA Coaches Poll. LaNorris Sellers, am I right? This team is bringing in a lot of talent. I say that for everybody, but it's true. LaNorris Sellers entering his second year. Does he improve? I think so. I think this team goes about 2 losses. And they are, a threat. They've just got some difficult games. On the road against LSU, on the road against Ole Miss maybe, but then finish off against Clemson. They also have to host Oklahoma, Alabama, on the road against Texas A&M. Road games in general are just going to be hard, but I think South Carolina has the schedule to go 2 losses, and I think they will. I think that's what I have them going, but I think South Carolina here, they've got a potential Heisman and a great quarterback at that, so I think they will go 2 losses, and number 13 seems like a good spot for now. Miami, basically the Miami Dolphins, because they don't have their own football stadium. Embarrassing. Get your own football stadium. What are you guys doing? I don't know. Can Carson Beck fill in the shoes of Cam Ward? That's my thing. I understand Cam Ward or Carson Beck. In terms of stats, he had a good year, but he single-handedly lost him some games in terms of the turnovers and whatnot and the poor offensive performances. That will get laid on the quarterback. Nonetheless, you can make excuses for people, but it's like a manager at work. It's like a manager at work, literally. You can make excuses for the manager. You can make excuses saying this and that, defend the person, but ultimately the quarterback has to protect the ball. They have to be smart with it. And Carson Beck at times made a lot of mistakes. He's got to fill in the shoes of Cam Ward, who was phenomenal last year. Phenomenal. And that's all Miami was offense. You lose Xavier Restrepo. You lose Damian Martinez, who's a starting running back, and Xavier Restrepo was a wide receiver. And obviously you lose Cam Ward. You replace Cam Ward with Carson Beck. That's a start. You get good recruiting and transfers. That's helpful. But you've got a lot of work to do on that defense. That defense was horrendous last year. Absolutely horrendous. You have to completely patch up your defense and expect Carson Beck to keep the offense moving at the level Cam Ward was. That is what will make Miami a top team. That is what will make them a top 4 seed college football playoff and potentially a winner in the national championship. That's what it'll take. Will that happen? No. In fact, I think Carson Beck is going to struggle in a new environment. Texas Tech, number 15. Now, again, like I said earlier, you can bring in all these transfers, pay them all this money and stuff. It might not work out. There is a big potential chance that Texas Tech doesn't live up to the hype that they're getting right now, and they collapse. But I like their quarterback. I like their head coach. In Texas Tech, I'm happy that there is a little rivalry brewing between ASU and Texas Tech. I think it's cool. Whether people actually believe that or not, I think there's some serious history between these two programs, with Texas Tech typically dominating it. I enjoy making this team competitive. I enjoy watching these matchups. I set my calendar for these. I was ready to watch the basketball games. We didn't play them in baseball, but I was ready for the ASU one, obviously, in football, and they beat us. I like playing this team. I'm enjoying watching them, but that doesn't have anything to do with my prediction. My prediction is based off the fact that I like their quarterback, and they brought in a lot of transfers and paid a lot of money to good players. I think Texas Tech was already just a good team last year. They were just extremely inconsistent. If you remember, I said that a lot last season. I thought Texas Tech was a much better football team than they were being given credit for. And they played a lot of great games. They just were inconsistent, turned the ball over quite a bit, and made a lot of mistakes, of course, except for the one and only game in which they beat ASU. And then I guess Iowa State, they didn't make as many mistakes, but still. I don't think they turned the ball over once against ASU, and they probably turned the ball over like 2 or 3 times every other game the rest of the season. They played a perfect game against us. Whatever. Have it, Texas Tech. I think this team is going to be serious, and ASU versus Texas Tech is going to be college game day. Illinois. I've kind of lowered this team just because I do like their quarterback. I like their head coach, and I do think this Illinois team was good last year, but number 12 is really, really high for me. I did think it was cool and poetic how they put Illinois over South Carolina after that crazy game last year where people were freaking out that South Carolina should be in the college football playoff, and then Illinois beat them, and it was such a toxic game, so it was cool that they put them over them, but I'm just not too sure about number 12. That seems a little high for a team like this. Nonetheless, though, I have them going 2 losses, same as South Carolina, just because their schedule is a little bit easier and they have some nice home games, but I have them picking up a important road game. That's my thing. I think it's against Washington, but I think this team will be pretty good and a potential sleeper in the Big Ten. Just probably a really good defense. Indiana. Why is Indiana so low in the coaches poll? Why are they so low? I don't understand. I guess, number 19 isn't that low. I thought they were like number 23 or something. Fernando Mendoza. That name right there, ladies and gentlemen, is going to make some ripples. Indiana, again, with another easy schedule. I have them going 10-2. Is it enough to get into the college football playoff? I don't know. I don't think so. And unless they can win one of the games, I think they play Penn State and then later Ohio State. But if I think Fernando Mendoza is going to be great. I just think they're going to lose the Penn State and the Ohio State game in close games. Kansas State, Avery Johnson, now is your time to shine. They lost some players, but mainly what was important to me was they built heavily around the minimal players that they lost. Avery Johnson, now is your time to shine. Are you going to be the quarterback? In my prediction video, I say nay. Florida, DJ Lagway, I can't put them up. I had to lower them. I mean, I only lowered them 2 spots, and I really don't know if I should put this team in the top 25. But hey, the head coach of Florida used to be a coach at ASU, so fuck it. But DJ Lagway is, after all, a great quarterback. It is Florida, so you can expect them to probably get some talent. But there is a lot of potential that this team doesn't, finish off in the top 25. Also, this happened with Anthony Richardson. Iowa State, a team returning a lot of production, something I actually didn't know, which kind of improved my outlook of them. They raise up a spot, but still, they had a hideous rush defense, something they need to patch up big time. Like, they were good in the air, but on the floor, they were terrible. They got absolutely destroyed by ASU, and they won a lot of close games last year, and they lost some bad games last year. Their 2 losses before ASU were Texas Tech and Kansas, which Kansas was getting really hot, but Texas Tech, that loss was bad. That loss was really bad. Iowa State had a nicer schedule than most teams, and they also caught Baylor early, but Baylor was a 4-loss team because they had an easier schedule. All their losses came against the good Big 12 teams. But, you get your quarterback back, but more importantly, he loses his top 2 targets by far, his best 2 targets. The running back, I think he comes back. He was all right. Iowa State could go like 3 or 4 losses. That's what I think. Tennessee, quarterback problems. I mean, Tennessee will probably have a good defense. They had a good defense last year. But in reality, the whole quarterback situation has kind of thrown me off, and I don't really think Tennessee is going to be that good with this other guy. I think they said like Josh Hoopiel or something like that. I don't know. But there was, I don't know if I was talking there for a second. Hopefully I was. I just flicked that up. But, hopefully he is a good quarterback, because Tennessee football, even though sometimes I despise Tennessee fans, their crowd gets pretty crazy, and it's fun to watch on the TV. But their fans, and sometimes their coaches are crybabies. All the SEC coaches are typically crybabies, but yeah, whatever. Ole Miss, number 22, again, just quarterback problems. Who's going to be your starter? Is he going to fill in the shoes of Jackson Dart? I don't think so. Georgia Tech probably should have had this team over Tennessee and Ole Miss, but they have a great head coach. I love that guy down at Georgia Tech, and they get their quarterback, as well as they return a giant heaping load of production. Like, again, another team that returns a lot of production. I think Georgia Tech, I think they will go 2 losses. That's what I predict them going, but I can see them going 3 or 4 losses and finishing off here. So that's where I'll put them for now. It's way too much to shove them above a bunch of these teams, though. Oklahoma, great quarterback transfer. And Oklahoma was not the worst football team ever. I just think Jackson Arnold for them was not that good of a quarterback. And ultimately, they had a really good defense. Their offense just really sucked. It really sucked. And they made some key changes, mainly quarterback. But I think Oklahoma can get her done this year. I think they will go about 4 losses and improve drastically. Florida State, I don't care if they were 2-10. ASU was 3-9. Next season, we won the Big 12 championship. Why can't Florida State go 2-10 and then 10-2 the next season? Especially when your head coach is Mike Norvell, which it took him barely any time to get Florida State to go undefeated. And they've got a great quarterback transfer. Tommy Castellanos, I think his name is. He did great at Boston College. Had an altercation with the staff there. Ended up leaving. Now he's at Florida State. Florida State, number 25, and that is my top 25. Sorry I sped that up. I am about to fall asleep in my chair. So let me know your top 25 in the comments. A like and subscribe to help a comment always helps. That's all from me. Adios.